My name is Vesper Hale, 34 years old. The vibration of my phone cuts through the chaos of the ER like a scalpel, a harsh little tremor that threads beneath the beeping monitors and hallway shouts. 3 trauma cases in the last hour, a stack of charting like a fallen city on my workstation, and now my hip buzzes with an urgency that makes my stomach clench. No one calls during my shift unless something is wrong. I duck into the supply closet, tearing off my blood-spattered gloves with a snap that echoes against metal shelves. The caller ID shows Lily's name. My heart punches once against my ribs. "Honey, what's wrong?" Her voice comes through, thready and soaked with panic. "Mom, my key doesn't work." "What do you mean it doesn't work?" I press the phone so hard to my ear I can feel my pulse in the cartilage, straining over overhead announcements. I put it in and it won't turn. I'm outside, and it's raining really hard, and Oscar won't stop crying in his carrier. Words spill out between ragged breaths. I close my eyes and see it. My 12-year-old daughter, hunched under the side porch, backpack soaked, cat carrier at her feet like a small, shuddering bunker. "Where's Grandma? Or Tessa?" Nobody's answering. I can see lights on. I've been knocking. There's a stifled sob. "Please come." "I'm leaving now. Go to the side porch where there's more cover. Stay out of the rain as much as you can." I push through the door and nearly collide with Dr. Martinez. "Vesper, Bay 3 is decompensating." "Oh." My daughter's locked out of the house. The words taste metal. "I have to go." He blinks, torn between triage and me. "We are swamped. Can someone else get her?" There is no one else. The truth sits cold and perfect. It always has. At the nurse's station, Supervisor Wheeler glances up over her glasses, pen clicking. "Vesper, we're down 3 already." "Family emergency," I say. It is both explanation and apology, but the apology doesn't reach my voice. Her sigh is a rubber stamp. "Go." The rain is coming down in sheets by the time I pull into the driveway. Through the frantic metronome of the wipers, I make out Lily's small figure under the side overhang, hair plastered, uniform clinging to her like a second skin. The cat carrier yowls a miserable chorus. I leave the engine running and sprint through the downpour. Cold water knifes through my scrubs in seconds. "I'm here," I say, wrapping her in my arms, feeling the tight little tremors of her ribs. "I'm here." "Why doesn't my key work?" "I don't know." I smooth the wet hair from her cheek, my mind already inventorying everything that could be wrong and none of it making sense. "Let me try mine." We move to the front door. The porch light paints the wet planks a sickly yellow. As I reach for the lock, the living room curtains shift. Just a breath, as if a hand withdrew too late. Someone's home. My key slides in. It won't turn. Exactly as she said. I knock hard. "Hello? Marjorie? Tessa? Open up." The door swings back. My mother stands there, composed as a magazine spread, wine glass in hand. Her silver hair is perfectly shellacked. Her lipstick the cool, withholding red I remember from childhood recitals. Behind her, Tessa leans against the hallway wall, also cradling a glass, the stem pinched like a delicate neck. "Well," my mother says, taking a slow sip, eyes traveling over the 2 drowned animals at her threshold. "You got here quickly. What's going on?" I try to angle Lily inside, but my mother doesn't move. There's a faint chemical tang, fresh paint, drifting from the end of the hall that used to be my room. A new smart lock blinks a tiny red eye under the handle. In a ceramic bowl on the console table just inside, I glimpse a white rectangle with a realtor's logo half hidden under keys. "Why aren't our keys working?" I ask. "We've decided," my mother says, "that you and Lily don't live here anymore." The words arrive as if in a language I once knew and forgot. "This is our home." "Not anymore," Tessa says, moving forward, mouth curling. "Your things are on the curb. What's left of them anyway? The rain's been educational." I follow her gesture. Cardboard boxes slump in the grass, dissolving into paste, clothes like deflated lungs, a photo album bleeding watercolors, Lily's science fair ribbon trailing ink, my textbooks bowing into soft, ruined spines. Oscar lets out a broken meow. Something hard and precise clicks into place in my chest, the way a fracture sets under the doctor's steady hands. I look at my mother, this woman I moved back home to help when Dad got sick, and find a stranger wearing her face. "Understood," I say softly. 2 years ago, I gave up my downtown apartment, paused a promotion track, and rearranged my life into the geometry of my father's illness. I ran 14-hour shifts and came home to medications and appointments while my mother played bridge and Tessa visited when it was photogenic. I had made a private vow over Dad's oxygen hiss to hold the family together. I hadn't realized I'd be fighting for simple shelter. "Come on, Lil," I murmur, turning away from the door. "Let's get what we can." We move through the rain, salvaging with numb efficiency, warped books, dripping uniforms, a family photo where my father's face has become a soft blur. My mother steps onto the porch, watching us like theater. "Your father spoiled you," she calls. "This was always my house." Across the street, shapes gather behind glass. Mrs. Donovan's hand covers her mouth. The Fishers whisper like a pair of theater-goers. I set a box in the trunk and go back one last time. The porch light halos my mother. Over her shoulder, the realtor's card glints, then vanishes as Tessa slides a palm over the bowl and turns it face down. Behind them, a drop cloth peeks from my old doorway. "We'll be at the Residence Inn on 5th, I say evenly. "Forward our mail." Lily tugs my sleeve. "But Grandpa's books are still inside," she whispers. And there it is. The first crack in her composure, the small sound of something breaking. I meet my mother's gaze and let every ER night, every catheter and compress, every hour, I watched a man I loved recede inside pain add weight to my voice. "Trust me, honey," I tell Lily, loud enough for my mother to hear. "This isn't over." Something flickers in my mother's eyes. Surprise, then irritation, then a needle-fine thread of fear. She tries to toy into disdain. Tessa swirls her wine, but her wrist isn't quite steady. As we drive away, the wipers carving the storm into manageable streaks, Lily cradles Oscar's carrier on her lap like a fragile engine. "Where will we go?" she asks, and I hear what she's not saying. "Where is safe?" "Hotel," I say, one night at a time. By morning, the hotel room looks like the aftermath of a wave. Soggy boxes arranged in archipelagos across beige carpet. Oscar wedged under the desk, eyes unnaturally wide. I spread our salvaged life on the bedspread and begin to catalog because cataloging is how I breathe. Textbooks, warped, ribbon, ink running, photograph. Father visible only if you know what to look for. I call Michael Porter's office. Reception hesitates. I insist. "This is about my father's estate," I say, flipping a wet page to find the corner of a legal folder. "And the house." Minutes later, Michael's voice is in my ear, warm and alarmed. "Vesper, tell me everything." I tell him in the clinical report tone that ER nurses are born or forged with. Lock changed. Keys dead. Boxes in rain. Daughter on porch. Mother at threshold. Half-sister present. Visuals. Fresh paint. New smart lock. Possible realtor materials. He listens like a man catching water in a drought. "That's impossible," he interrupts gently. "Your father transferred the house to you and Lily's trust 6 months ago." For a second, the room tilts. I sit down hard on the bed's edge, springs complaining. "What?" "Trust is filed with the county," he says. Papers shuffle. "He asked me not to tell you unless necessary. Vesper, he knew." Lily emerges from the bathroom with damp hair and a towel hem that skims her knees. She watches me, like she watches lab dissections. Interested, a little scared, sorting organs from noise. "I'm coming to your office," I tell Michael. "Now." 45 minutes later, I'm staring at the dry authority of notarized signatures on his mahogany desk. The line of my father's name looks steady, even 3 weeks before he died. No tremor, no uncertainty. Michael slides a sealed envelope toward me. Dad's scrawl on the front blurs as my eyes flood. "My dearest Vesper," it begins, and something inside me stands at attention. "If you're reading this, your mother has done what she spoke about as if it were a spa day, reclaiming her life. The house is yours and Lily's, not because of blood, but because of care. You have always carried gently what others dropped. Don't let that gentle become a leash." A single tear lands on his signature, wicking outward like a small tide across ink. I exhale as if surfacing. "We have everything we need for an emergency injunction," Michael says. His voice is careful, calibrated. "Marjorie and Tessa are trespassing." My phone buzzes. "Karen from across the street. They're painting your room. Tessa's SUV in and out since morning. Boys jumping on Lily's bed." "This was planned," I say, showing him the screen. "This was all planned." Michael's mouth tightens. Then we move quickly. I walk to his window, staring at the hard angles of downtown. In the glass, my reflection stares back. A woman in scrubs, hair still damp, jaw set in a new line I don't recognize yet. I think of my father in the quiet midnight, when the house sighed and the oxygen machine hummed like a tired ship. I had told him I would keep us safe. Maybe he believed me so much, he wrote it into law. I save strangers every day, I say to the glass, to the city, to the girl who watched me from a hotel bed with a cat tucked under her ribs. Michael gathers documents into a neat stack, a soldier packing his kit. Then let's save your family, he says. Not revenge, I answer, the words arranging themselves with a satisfying click. Justice. In the reflection, I watch my own mouth shape a final decision. I turn back, sit, and sign where he points me to sign, firm strokes that feel like building a spine out of ink. Outside, the rain has gentled into a steady thread. For the first time since the door swung open and my mother stood there with her wineglass and her practiced poise, I feel something uncurl in my chest. It isn't relief. Not yet. It's the knowledge of a path I can walk with my daughter beside me and my father at my back, his voice in my pocket, telling me boundaries can be a form of love. By evening, the hotel room stops looking like a disaster and starts looking like a command center. I spread legal pads across the desk, stack the least warped textbooks by subject, lay out photographs on towels to dry. Lily sits cross-legged on the bed with Oscar purring in a trembling loaf beside her, hair tucked behind her ears, the way she does when she's trying to be braver than she feels. The hum of the wall AC flattens the edges of my thoughts into something I can hold. Dr. Sarah Williams knocks once and lets herself in, a whirlwind of clean cotton and competence. Fresh scrubs, jeans, sneakers, real shampoo, she says, dropping 2 bags on the chair. Her eyes scan the spread in a quick inventory. You okay? No, I say, but I'm going to be. She squeezes my shoulder, then bends to greet Lily, who's trying not to look like she needs the hug she leans into anyway. I've typed a statement, Sarah says, straightening. 2 years of watching you run yourself ragged for your dad. Nobody's calling you erratic on my watch. Thank you, I say, and the words feel small for what she's carrying in with her. Credibility, and the kind of friendship that doesn't ask where to set it down. An hour later, Miss Bennett arrives, rain dappling her cardigan. She hands Lily a folder of assignments and me a manila envelope. Documented what Lily's told me, she murmurs, gaze steady. Dates, behaviors, contacts at the school. You'll need an academic record of stability and disruption. I also printed the attendance records where her grandfather showed up for events when you were working. He mattered to her, and she mattered to him. Lily nods, biting her lip. He fell asleep at my chorus concert once, she says. He snored during the quiet song. We all heard it, Miss Bennett says, smiling. It was magnificent. When she leaves, the room exhales. I open my laptop and start building the spine, a timeline and color blocks, green for Dad's appointments, blue for medication changes, red for emergencies, yellow for Lily's milestones. I attach scans of receipts to each month, mortgage payments, utilities, repairs. I tag photographs with timestamps. Each click feels like suturing a wound, bringing tissue to tissue until the edges meet. Michael texts, bank manager confirmed trust, temporary credit line available. Your father anticipated resistance. I answer with a photograph of the timeline pinned on the wall with hotel pushpins. He replies almost instantly, that calendar wins cases. The phone rings again, unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, then answer. Vesper? The voice is tight, pitched low. It's Eleanor. My mother's younger sister, the one who stopped attending Christmases after a spectacular fight 5 years ago over something no one would name out loud. Aunt Eleanor, I say, careful. I heard, she says, a Karen called me. A clink. Ice in a glass. Your mother has been planning this since Peter's diagnosis. She told me at Christmas she was going to reclaim her life when he died. Bought paint samples in January. Asked me about estate liquidators in February. Why are you telling me this, I ask, and the question is bigger than the words. Where have you been? Do you want something? Why now? Because it's wrong, she says simply. And because Tessa listed your father's rolling IV stand and a box of medical supplies on Facebook Marketplace this morning. I have screenshots. A pause. Your mother thinks boundaries are cruelty. So does the church when boundaries belong to women. I don't. My throat tightens. Send me everything. Already did, she says. And Vesper, make copies of everything twice. Your mother is charming when she wants to be. Charm gets doors open that shouldn't be. After I hang up, I open the screenshots. The IV stand is unmistakable. The caption, downsizing after family transition. Great condition. The comments are mercilessly practical. Dimensions, price firm, as if the ethics of the sale were the one item not available. I forward the images to Michael. His dots appear and disappear in quick succession. Will enjoin any disposition of property. Keep collecting proof. Another text follows. Don't be surprised if you see a smear campaign. It's the first move of a weak hand. It starts before dawn. A Facebook post from my mother. Please pray for our family. Some grief looks like rebellion. 27 comments in an hour. All hearts and hands pressed together. A digital rosary of pity. A second text arrives from Lily's teacher. Parents asking whether Lily is safe. Rumors of my instability. Then the hospital. An anonymous complaint filed about my professional judgment. Sarah reads the summary over my shoulder. They are going to try to make you the problem, she says, clinical as a cut. It will be ugly and stupid, and it will work on exactly the kind of people you're better off never meeting. I don't have time to be destroyed, I say, and open a new folder labeled Slander. I screenshot, download, archive. I print out the complaint notice and staple it to the statements of colleagues who volunteered character references before I asked. I email the union rep. I BCC my future self on every message, as if I'm writing to a woman I trust in case this one forgets. Lily sits on the carpet with Dad's old tablet, the blue one. Mom, she says without looking up, Grandpa backed up all his important papers here, remember? He showed me the app because I kept forgetting my logins. I sit beside her, shoulder to shoulder. Password? She glances up at me, a shy conspirator. Your birthday. The cloud opens like the careful hand. Deeds. Scans of signed trust documents. PDFs of hospital bills with Dad's meticulous notations in blue stylus. I feel the rare and holy pleasure of contingency paying off, like finding a second parachute already packed. There's a file I don't recognize, tucked in a folder named Library, a short audio clip. I plug in my headphones. If you're hearing this, my father says in a voice roughened by oxygen and stubbornness, then I didn't get to explain it myself. Your mother loves the idea of ownership. She does not love the care of things. That includes people. Please make peace with how that is. Give her what you can carry without breaking. No more. I swallow hard. He left us a map, I say. Lily leans into my side. By late morning, we're ready for a retrieval. Michael has drafted a letter requesting Lily's birth certificate and Dad's medical files. We meet Officer Banks 2 blocks from the house. He's all calm edges, a notebook in one pocket, and a sympathy I'm grateful he will not try to use. You understand you're staying outside, he says gently. I'll escort them to get the documents. I understand, I say, and the words feel like a test I'm passing. I don't need to storm the gates to win the castle. At the door, my mother answers in a silk blouse as if the day invited guests. Tessa appears behind her, lips already framing the complaint. I hold my phone high and visible, camera red dot blinking. This is a documented request for my daughter's birth certificate and my father's medical records, I say evenly. We'll call the police, Tessa snaps. I already did, I say, nodding toward Banks, who introduces himself with a tone perfected on late-night porches. My mother's eyes swim with manufactured tears. After everything I have done for you, she whispers, like a line from a play she's rehearsed for years. I'll wait here, I say, and step off the porch. Across the street, Mrs. Daniels washes her driveway a second time, the hose an alibi. 10 minutes later, Banks returns with a manila envelope. Birth certificate in blue, medical files in a folder labeled Study. My mother hovers, thwarted grace curdling into contempt. You think you can take what's mine, she says low enough that only I hear it. This won't end how you think. It never does, I say, and mean it. Back at the hotel, I lay the new documents onto the timeline, each page sliding into the narrative like a vertebra clicking into alignment. Michael calls as I'm scanning. We'll file for an emergency possession order first thing, he says. The trust is ironclad. I want affidavits from Dr. Williams, Miss Bennett, the bank manager, and we'll add Aunt Eleanor's screenshots. I have them, I say, and my father's voice. That too, he says softly. If the judge allows it, it will matter. Even if she doesn't, it will matter to you. His assistant breaks in on the line. Heads up, someone called the clerk's office to verify your case file status. Gave Marjorie's number as a callback. We flagged it. Inside help, I ask? Or someone who thinks charm is a master key, Michael says. We'll double every submission and have the clerk stamp copies. Don't trust received unless you can touch the ink. We hang up. I open a fresh legal pad and write redundancy at the top. Cloud backup, printed sets, encrypted USB, off-site envelope at Sarah's apartment. My hand steadies as the list lengthens. I am building a body that can survive the next hit. The smear widens by afternoon. Concerned calls from Aunt Catherine and Uncle Robert, soft voices shaped like knives. We're worried about how you're coping. Your mother is devastated. Church is praying for reconciliation. I say thank you, and I'm focused on Lily, and the court will sort the rest. I say nothing. I can't attach to an affidavit later. When I finally sit, the room has slipped toward dusk without my consent. Lily paints a watercolor at the little round table, a house with a porch and a garden that looks like the one at home, except there's a fence now, and the gate has a lock with a small heart for a keyhole. It's silly, she says, embarrassed, covering it with her arm. It's perfect, I tell her. It's a plan. My phone buzzes. A message from Sarah. Drop by the hospital cafeteria before your shift tomorrow. I'll have my signed statement. Another from Miss Bennett. Also got a note from the school counselor willing to testify to Lily's stability before the lockout. Michael again. Bank manager in person at 10. Clerk at 11 to stamp duplicates. We'll file by noon. At the bottom of the bag of clothes Sarah brought, I find a small fireproof pouch I don't remember packing. Inside, one of Dad's old USB drives. Heavy, metal, engraved with the name of a medical conference from a decade ago. I plug it in. Folders bloom. House, will, say, drafts, letters. I scroll past my own name, breath-catching. I'm not ready for what that file might ask of me. In-house, I find a spreadsheet labeled Inventory with tabs by room. Each line has a description, a photo, a note, signatures under bottom drawer, library chest, loose board in study floor, do not step. Grandmother's silver, loaned to Marjorie 2012-ish, never returned. On the library tab, a final line glows like a flare. If items go missing, check storage unit registered under Peterson, 1098 Rosedale. Tessa's last name. I slap a post-it over the screen like I can smother the implication. I text Michael the line. 3 dots appear. Vanish. Return. Good catch. We won't spook them yet. Add it to the motion. Another ping. And Vesper, start thinking about what you want if we recover everything. Criminal charges are an option. So is leverage. I think of Lily's watercolor fence, the heart-shaped lock. What do I want? I say aloud. Lily looks up. What? Nothing, I say. And it's not a lie, so much as a placeholder for something I will be brave enough to put into words when the ground feels less like water. I print Dad's inventory, hole punch it, slide a bed into a binder that's beginning to feel like armor. I label the spine with tape. Reynolds v. Reynolds, possession. It's absurd and true. It's also the way we get home. At nearly midnight, Oscar emerges to curl against Lily's ribcage, motor buzzing. She smiles in her sleep, a small release in the corners of her mouth I haven't seen in days. I switch off the lamp and sit in the dark with the blue tablet glowing on the bedspread, my father's voice in my ear telling me to draw lines not as punishments, but as shapes that make life possible. The phone lights again with a notification from the clerk's office, routine receipt of filing earlier today on another case of Michael's. At the bottom, a note. Reminder. Files are physically relocated during overnight scanning between 2-4 a.m. I take a screenshot and email it to myself with a subject line only I will understand. Don't sleep through the hour, someone else will try to steal. I tuck the mystery USB, the fireproof pouch, and Lily's watercolor into the hotel safe. Then I set 2 alarms, one for the bank, one for the clerk, and a third for 1:57 a.m., because Eleanor is right. Charm opens doors. And because I am done being surprised by what my mother is willing to call love. The courthouse rises like an old truth no one wants to face. White stone, gray sky. Windows that reflect everyone but you. I arrive early, Michael at my side, briefcase bulging with the evidence of 2 years' care turned into 3 weeks of warfare. Lily holds my hand, her small fingers tracing the groove of my wedding band finger where nothing has sat for years. "Do we have to talk?" she asks. "Only if you want to," I tell her, though I know she'll want to when the time comes. Inside, the air hums with whispered speculation. The clerk leads us to courtroom B. It smells of wood polish and nerves. Marjorie is already seated with Tessa, both in black, the shade of solemnity chosen by people who confuse costume with conscience. Their attorney, Gordon Shaw, looks expensive and bored. My mother doesn't look at me, which is how I know she's terrified. Michael arranges our folders, speaking quietly. "Judge Caldwell. Fair, methodical. She likes order and doesn't tolerate drama." "Then she'll hate this family," I mutter. He smirks. "Let's make her love the evidence." When the judge enters, everyone rises. Her gaze sweeps the room like a scanner, precise and unsentimental. "Reynolds family trust dispute, temporary possession hearing," she announces. "Counsel, proceed." Michael stands first. His voice is steady, the calm of a man who trusts the math. He unfurls our timeline on a board: treatment schedules, financial ledgers, notarized transfer forms. "Your Honor, Dr. Peter Reynolds was of sound mind when he transferred the home into his daughter Vesper Hale's trust for her and her child. 3 physicians attest to this in sworn affidavits." He sets down a binder. "Here are financial statements showing Ms. Hale covered mortgage and household expenses, while her mother, Mrs. Marjorie Reynolds, made minimal contributions. Here is correspondence between Dr. Reynolds and the bank confirming his intention that the property remain with his daughter and granddaughter." The judge flips through the exhibits, eyebrows rising slightly at the color-coded precision. "Efficient documentation," she murmurs. Marjorie's lawyer rises, offering a smile you could slide a razor under. "Your Honor, this is a tragic misunderstanding born of grief. My client cared devotedly for her husband. Ms. Hale, though well-meaning, has been emotionally unstable since his death." He gestures to my mother, who dabs a perfectly timed tear. Marjorie's voice trembles on cue. "I loved my husband. I never imagined my daughter would turn on me. She left me alone in that house to deal with everything." Michael leans toward me. "Let it pass," he whispers. Emotion burns out faster than proof. Tessa steps up next, displaying glossy photos, Christmas tree, smiling faces, pills lined neatly by the bed. "See," she says, "Mom handled everything. Vesper came home late, barely talked to Dad." A murmur stirs behind me. I glance back to see Dr. Williams slip into a seat, arms crossed, chin lifted like a weapon. Michael rises again. "We also have affidavits from Dr. Sarah Williams, attending physician, confirming Ms. Hale's presence at over 80% of Dr. Reynolds' appointments, and from Miss Bennett, Lily's teacher, confirming Ms. Hale's consistent caregiving role." He clicks the projector remote. The courtroom screen flickers to life with a video deposition. Attorney James Wilson, gray hair, calm tone, appears. "Dr. Reynolds was explicit in his wishes. He anticipated potential interference. The trust transfer was executed with full consent, witnessed, and filed." Marjorie gasps, audible even through her practiced restraint. Shaw whispers something to her. She nods too quickly. The judge's pen moves. "Continue." Michael lays down our ace: the printed inventory, the library spreadsheet, the timestamps from the night of the lockout. Neighbors witnessed the removal of Ms. Hale's belongings. The respondents changed locks within 24 hours of Dr. Reynolds' funeral. We also have proof of property listed online for sale, items still belonging to the trust. He hands over Eleanor's screenshots. The judge's eyes flick across them, one brow arching. "Mr. Shaw?" Shaw clears his throat. "No comment until verification." "Verification will be easy," Judge Caldwell says dryly. Then the door opens again. Eleanor enters, pale coat dripping from the rain outside. The bailiff starts to stop her, but Michael gestures. "Your Honor, this is Dr. Reynolds' sister-in-law, Mrs. Eleanor Blackwell. She requested to testify." The judge nods, briefly. Eleanor approaches the stand. Her hands don't shake. "I visited my brother-in-law every week. My sister Marjorie was rarely there. The only constant was Vesper. She handled medications, meals, appointments. Peter told me he feared his wife would sell the house before he was cold in the ground." Gasps ripple through the room. Tessa mutters something. Shaw hisses at her to stop. The judge makes a note. Noted for record. Michael steps forward again. Your Honor, Dr. Reynolds left a letter to be opened only if disputes arose. The bailiff passes it to the bench. The judge breaks the seal, reading silently for a long half-minute. Then she looks up. This letter corroborates the trust's intent. It states clearly that Mrs. Reynolds had grown resentful of her husband's bond with his daughter and might attempt to override his will. Marjorie's mouth opens, closes, opens again. That's not fair, she blurts. He wasn't thinking clearly. He was dying. Michael doesn't look at her. Your Honor, 3 physicians affirm his full mental capacity. Before the judge can respond, a small voice speaks from the gallery. May I say something? Lily stands beside our table, shoulders squared. The judge softens. Come forward, young lady. Lily walks to the stand, shoes squeaking on the floor. She takes the oath seriously, repeating each word. Then she says, My grandpa told me the house would always be safe for Mom and me. He said he made sure of it. I just want to go home. It's not rehearsed. It's pure. A silence falls that no one wants to break. Shaw clears his throat. Your Honor, the child is done, the judge interrupts gently. Thank you, Miss Hale. Lily walks back, and I take her hand under the table. She squeezes once, hard. Michael gathers his papers. Your Honor, we rest. Judge Caldwell folds her hands. Mrs. Reynolds, is there anything you wish to add? My mother stands, chin trembling. I was trying to protect our family. Vesper twisted everything. She turned Peter against me. The judge studies her for a long moment, then looks at the stack of affidavits. Protection does not usually involve changed locks and discarded belongings. The gavel's soft rap echoes through the room. I am granting temporary possession of the property to Ms. Vesper Hale and her minor child, effective immediately. Respondents are to vacate within 24 hours under sheriff's supervision. Final hearing scheduled in 3 weeks. The air seems to expand, then rush out of my lungs. Michael exhales beside me, relief tempered by the knowledge this isn't over. Across the aisle, Tessa whispers furiously to Shaw while Marjorie stares at nothing, face gone gray under her makeup. Outside the courtroom, rain spits against the windows. Michael slips his briefcase strap over his shoulder. We'll start preparing for permanent possession. Don't let your guard down. I won't, I say. She'll come again. He nods. That's why we document everything. Lily looks up at me, her reflection ghosted in the glass door. So, we're going home? Almost, I say. This was just the first gate. As we step into the hall, Eleanor catches my sleeve. Be careful, she says. Your mother isn't used to losing. Neither am I answer, and for the first time, the words don't sound defensive. They sound like fact. By the time we reach the parking lot, the rain has deepened to a steady rhythm. Michael's car gleams with droplets like tiny medals. I'll deliver the certified order to the sheriff myself, he says. They'll execute the writ tomorrow. I nod, watching the courthouse doors swing closed behind us. Through the window, I can see Marjorie arguing with her attorney, gestures sharp enough to cut. For a moment, she looks small, like a figure trapped in someone else's story. Then she straightens, face smoothing back into the calm of a woman who still believes manipulation counts as love. Beside me, Lily tilts her face into the rain, eyes closed. It smells like when Grandpa watered the garden, she says softly. Yes, I tell her, but this time it's washing something clean. Michael checks his watch. You'll need to meet me at the sheriff's office at 8. Bring identification, the trust documents, and that tablet copy. We'll lock it all down. Understood. As he drives off, I take Lily's hand. We walk to our car in silence, the rain stitching small, silver lines around our feet. Somewhere behind us, my mother is still talking. But for once, I don't turn to listen. Tomorrow she'll have to open her door when the law knocks, and I'll be standing on the porch again, not begging this time, but belonging. The sheriff's department lot smells like wet asphalt and bureaucracy. I stand with Michael under the low awning while he checks the paperwork one last time. The writ of possession gleams beneath its plastic sleeve, the ink still new enough to smell. Lily waits in the car, earbuds in, the cat carrier beside her like a small, breathing secret. You're sure you want to be here? Michael asks. The deputies can handle it. I was here when they threw us out, I say. I'll be here when we go back in. He nods once, respecting the symmetry. They'll start at 9 sharp. 2 deputies plus Officer Banks. You and Lily can stay by the mailbox. Don't cross the line unless asked. At 8:57 a.m., the convoy turns onto our street. 2 patrol cars, 1 unmarked sedan. Curtains twitch across the neighborhood like a wind through tall grass. The house looks smaller than I remember, the paint a fresh, defensive white. My mother's car is in the driveway. Tessa's says SUV beside it. The lead deputy knocks. Sheriff's Department, we have a court order for possession of this property. Tessa answers first, face flushed, hair unbrushed. This is harassment. Please get your mother. Marjorie appears moments later in full armor, silk blouse, pearls, lipstick steady. I need to see that order, she says, chin high. The deputy reads it aloud, voice firm and neutral. You have 20 minutes to collect essential personal belongings under supervision. You are prohibited from removing property belonging to the Reynolds Trust. Marjorie's eyes find mine across the lawn. The hatred in them is quiet, distilled. You think this makes you strong, she says. It makes you heartless. I don't answer. The law doesn't need my commentary. The deputies step inside with them. Michael starts the recording app on his phone, time-stamped and steady. From where I stand, I can hear fragments, the scrape of boxes, the brittle edge of Marjorie's voice rising in protest, the measured patience of uniformed authority. 17 minutes later, the door opens. A deputy carries out a small cat carrier. Found this one hiding under the bed, he says. Looks like it hasn't eaten in days. Lily runs forward, taking it with both hands. Mittens! The cat lets out a hoarse cry as she presses the carrier to her chest. Tears streak clean lines down her cheeks, but her smile is fierce. Inside, another deputy calls. We've got medical equipment stored in the basement. Some of it looks damaged. Photograph everything, Michael says. I step closer to the threshold, careful not to cross it. From here, I can see through the open doorway into the living room. Furniture rearranged. Photos replaced. The piano polished to a mirror sheen. But Dad's study door is ajar, and inside I glimpse the edge of the old mahogany desk, scratched, dented, familiar. Marjorie emerges, clutching her purse. You'll regret this, Vesper, she says. When you need family, remember this moment. I meet her gaze steadily. You taught me what regret feels like, remember? In the rain. Her face tightens. She steps off the porch without another word. Tessa follows, dragging a suitcase. She pauses at the bottom of the steps, eyes darting toward Michael. You don't know everything, she says, voice low. Mom's not the only one who wanted this. I will, I say, eventually. She looks like she might say more, then shakes her head and climbs into her SUV. The deputies finish their inventory. Formal transfer complete, the lead officer says. We noted missing items, documented and photographed. You'll get the report by end of day. He hands me a ring of keys, house, garage, gate, heavy in my palm, like something earned rather than inherited. Michael signs the receipt, then turns to me. It's yours now, legally and literally. I nod, but the word mine feels foreign. Behind the relief, there's something colder. The realization that victory doesn't erase violation. It just marks where it ended. When the last car pulls away, silence settles like dust. The neighbors retreat from their windows, pretending not to have witnessed anything. Lily stands beside me, still holding the carrier. Can we go inside? She asks. Not yet, I say. Let's walk through together. The front door opens easily this time. The air smells wrong. Paint, bleach, and something metallic. I move slowly through the rooms, Michael behind me, taking photographs. In the kitchen, the cabinet doors hang slightly ajar. The good china, gone. The antique clock, gone. A few of Dad's medical journals lie scattered on the counter, water warped, pages sticking together. In the hallway, framed photos of Tessa's twins replace our family portraits. Dad's study is the worst. The oxygen concentrator lies on its side, casing cracked. The floorboards around the desk are warped, as if someone spilled something corrosive. I kneel, pressing a finger to the stain. It smells faintly of oil. Deliberate, I say. Michael crouches beside me. We'll log it as malicious damage. Insurance plus the injunction will handle replacement. Some things can't be replaced. He glances at the shelves, half empty. We'll find the rest. That storage unit, remember? I nod, standing. Tessa's trail. Back in the living room, Lily runs a hand along the piano keys. It's still ours, right? It always was, I say. She presses a single note, C. The sound rings pure and lonely through the house. By afternoon, the deputy's report arrives by email. Missing heirlooms, damaged equipment, unauthorized renovations. Michael forwards it to the court with a note. Evidence of malicious occupation by respondents. The subject line is sterile. The implications are not. That night, I sit at the desk with Dad's old tablet and the mysterious spreadsheet open again. Under Library, the last entry glows faintly. Storage Unit, Pen 98, Rosedale, Peterson. I call Michael. They moved more than furniture, I say. We can get a warrant, right? He exhales. Yes, but let's play it smart. If they've sold anything, we'll need to trace transactions first. You still have Eleanor's screenshots? All of them. Good. She might be our key witness for theft. I'll start the motion in the morning. After the call, I pour tea. I won't drink and walk through the house. The walls echo differently now, like they're waiting for something human to fill them again. In the bedroom, I find a white envelope tucked behind a dresser mirror, my mother's handwriting looping across it. For Vesper, when you understand. I leave it unopened on the vanity. Not everything needs to be read to be answered. Lily is asleep on the couch, mittens curled in a tight comma against her stomach. Oscar perched on the backrest like a sentinel. The storm outside murmurs against the windows. Gentle now, not punishing. I walk to Dad's study, turn on the small brass lamp, and open the bottom drawer of the desk. Inside lies his stethoscope, coiled neatly, and beneath it, a flash drive wrapped in paper. On the paper, his handwriting again, in case she burns the evidence. My breath catches. I plug it into the laptop. Folders open. Photographs. Receipts. Correspondence between Dad and his attorney. Even a draft of the trust amendment. It's everything Marjorie must have tried to erase. I copy it all to the encrypted drive in the fireproof pouch. When it's done, I close the laptop and press my palm flat against the desktop. For the first time in months, the wood feels warm. Michael texts, "You did good today. Rest. Tomorrow we file for damages and full possession." I type back, "Resting isn't my strong suit." He replies, "Then at least breathe." I do. Slowly. Deeply. Outside, the rain thickens again. Not hostile, but steady. A sound like rebuilding. The house doesn't feel haunted anymore. It feels patient. Waiting. Upstairs, Lily murmurs in her sleep. Something about Grandpa and the garden. I stand at the foot of the stairs listening, letting the sound anchor me. This is what justice sounds like. Not applause, not vengeance. Just breathing in a house you refuse to surrender. Tomorrow we'll chase the missing pieces. Silver, books, maybe even forgiveness. But tonight the locks click closed under my fingers, and for the first time I don't flinch at the sound. 6 months later, the rain comes soft and sure, more like memory than weather. It threads down the kitchen window in silver seams while I rinse tea leaves from a mug and listen to the house breathe. The new security system hums under the floorboards, a quiet spine. Dad's study is mostly as he left it. Medical journals aligned, his reading glasses poised on the desk like a thought he stepped away from. Only one addition, a small wooden plaque Lily carved with a pocket knife and sanded smooth. Dr. Peter Reynolds Memorial Reading Room. The letters aren't even, which makes them perfect. The sheriff's report is framed on the wall across from his diplomas, a bureaucratic poem of dates and signatures that says what we already know. We came back, we stayed, we repaired. Michael filed for damages and won. Tessa returned a portion of what they'd moved after her attorney suggested the phrase criminal exposure out loud in a room full of oxygen. The rest surface out in a storage unit we documented with a deputy present. Some heirlooms didn't survive the months away. A cracked teapot that used to whistle like a songbird, the clock with its delicate brass ribs. I grieve them the way you grieve the smaller bones of a body, quietly, while washing the larger ones clean. On the kitchen table, a stapled packet sits under a paperweight shaped like the state of Texas. Caregiver Rights and Boundaries, a practical guide. It began as a folder for one trembling nurse in a supply closet who told me her mother was siphoning her paycheck. It grew because pain repeats itself, like a symptom with a simple name and a list of complicated causes. The hospital administration asked me to lead a workshop. I said yes, then no, then yes again. Yes to the teaching, no to the committee that wanted my nights. Dr. Williams laughed when I told her. "Look at you," she said, soft and proud, choosing the right yes. Lily calls from the door. "It's starting," she says, already wearing her raincoat, a mug of chamomile steaming in her hands. We step onto the porch together. The chimes we made from Dad's old medical alert tags lift and fall in the damp breeze, a tinkling that sounds like something between prayer and routine. The garden Lily planted, a lattice of mums and late-season vegetables she named the Peace Project, glows in saturated color. Water beads on kale leaves like a constellation. She keeps the gate latched. The lock clicks in a way that thrills her. Across town, Marjorie posts carefully curated photographs of antique furniture with captions that turn family history into inventory. I muted her months ago. 2 weeks back, my phone lit with unknown caller. I let it ring into silence. She left a message about the holidays and how forgiveness without reconciliation is just stubbornness dressed for Sunday. I deleted it, and then, because I am not made of stone but a mixture of softer things, I swept the fragments into an email to myself labeled documentation. A boundary is a shape you draw with your whole hand, not a line you scribble angry in the air. Aunt Eleanor sends me articles about restoration techniques for old wood and recipes for soups that make houses smell generous. She comes by on Wednesdays with rhubarb or a story and leaves before the line between help and intrusion blurs. She never calls herself a bridge, which is precisely why she is one. On her last visit, she said, "Your mother will cast this as a war you won." And then, after a beat, when really, you ended one she started long before the first lock. I washed the mug she used and thought, not triumph, terms. After court, after the writ, after the slow return of chairs and forks and breath, an envelope with my mother's handwriting waited behind the bedroom mirror. I opened it 2 months later because timing is a kind of truth. 5 pages. History rewritten with a steady pen, her sacrifices enumerated and itemized. No apology, only a thesis that love is debt and children pay. I slipped the letter into a file not labeled with her name but with mine, because that's what it was about. Then I took Lily for ice cream and we talked about school field trips and soil pH and how memory can be a room you clean, not a room you live in. The hospital offered me a promotion and I took it after 3 polite refusals. The 4th yes felt right in my mouth. Nursing supervisor, emergency services. The first week, a young tech with hands that shook during IV start time asked if I ever stop feeling like I'm failing everyone. I told her I still do on Tuesdays and some Sundays, but on the other days, I've learned to ask a better question. What can I carry that won't break me? She laughed, then cried, and I pointed to a laminated sign on the break room corkboard. Boundaries are how we keep our compassion sharp. Someone had written it in dry erase above the potluck list. I don't know who. I want to. Friday nights are ours. Lily picks the movie. I ruin the popcorn. The cats argue over the blanket and lose to both of us. We keep a ritual of remembering that isn't heavy. One photograph together from the week, printed and slipped into a wooden box with a lid that claps shut like applause. Last week's picture is just hands, Lily's, mine, and the new seed packets we bought for spring. If I could send a message backward to the night in the rain when my key wouldn't turn, I'd send that photo. Not proof of the future, proof of a different present. Michael drops by once a month on his way home, leaves legal updates on the counter next to the fruit bowl like mail from a saner universe. He refuses to take money for the hours he spends explaining ins and outs of restraining orders and lien releases. I refuse to let him leave without Tupperware filled with something that will steam his car windows. "Legacy," he said once, tapping the caregiver guide with a finger that always smells faintly of paper. "This is your father's legacy, in a form the court can't stamp." I wanted to argue that legacy is a word too grand for stapled pages. Instead, I said thank you and meant it. Some nights, long after Lily's breaths lengthen and the cats find their positions, one at the foot of the bed like a guard, one curled on my chest like a stone that purrs, I sit at Dad's desk and listen to his voice memo again. Give her what you can carry without breaking. No more. The first time it felt like permission. Now it feels like instruction that keeps evolving, like a muscle I keep discovering. I write in a journal the therapist convinced me to buy. 3 lines for grief, 3 for gratitude, 3 for decisions. Most entries look like triage notes written by someone who finally believes she's allowed to prioritize the living. A letter arrived yesterday with church letterhead and a polite guilt inside, phrases about honoring parents, and a paragraph on forgiveness as proof of faith. I read it once, twice, then placed it under the same paperweight. I am not interested in performing goodness for people who didn't hold a box with rain in their shoes. I am interested in the quieter mathematics of not letting harm define us. When I've decided how to reply, if I reply at all, I'll write something that starts with a thank you and ends with a boundary. Those two things can share a sentence. The trick is knowing where the comma goes. On the porch tonight, Lily paints the rain in watercolor. Lavender clouds, blue you can taste, a strip of gold where the porch light catches the wet fence. She adds the chimes as small silver strokes. It needs one more thing, she says. She paints a keyhole in the front door, then a tiny heart where the key would turn. In case we forget, she adds, glancing at me. I won't, I say. We rock in the chairs that used to creak and now sigh, a difference only I can hear. The neighbors pass by with dogs who know us again. The garden drinks and holds. Somewhere down the block, someone plays piano badly with fierce intention. It sounds like hope translated into scales. The cats press their faces against the storm door and chatter at birds, fattening themselves on the last seeds of the year. Everything ordinary glows like it survived something. It did. I think of the storage unit and the day we opened it, the stale air, the boxes labeled with black marker in Tessa's quick hand, the deputy's camera clicking like rain on a hot day. I remember the small thrill in my sternum when we lifted out the silver wrapped in cheap towels, the ache when I touched the teapot's hairline crack and felt a story close without healing. I chose not to press charges in exchange for a signed agreement, a return schedule, and a restraining order with teeth. It wasn't mercy or fear. It was the math again. Lily's sleep, my work, a house that deserved peace more than it deserved a spectacle. Boundaries aren't war, they're irrigation. Do you think we'll ever let Grandma visit? Lily asks, brush poised, eyes on the paper instead of my face. Maybe, I say, and it is not a dodge. If she can say the truth out loud. If she changes, not for a week, but for real. What would she have to say? That she hurt us, that locking us out wasn't love, that she's sorry, that it won't happen again. Lily nods, as if taking notes in a class where the test is living. She paints a tiny figure under the porch, 2 dots for eyes, a line for a mouth. That's me, she says. See the cats? She dots 2 smaller shapes at her feet, tails up like flags. Yes, I say, and my voice slips without warning. I look away until it holds again. I see them. The rain slows. The chimes quiet. The porch light smears a soft circle on the wet steps, like a promise that keeps its own company. I think about the question people ask in whispers. Would I do anything differently? The part of me that still wakes at 2:17 a.m. to check the locks says yes. I'd have had the documents in a safe sooner. I'd have changed the passwords. I'd have installed the cameras the day Dad got his diagnosis. The part of me that is learning to be kind to the woman who survived says no. I did what I could with what I had, and when it broke, I built something stronger. Inside, my phone buzzes on the counter, a message from Sarah. You ready to teach those new nurses how to say no? I type back, yes. Then another from Michael. Final order recorded. Title clear. The legal equivalent of a lullaby. I forward it to my future self with no subject line and smile at how unnecessary it is. I like the redundancy anyway. When Lily finishes the painting, she holds it up to the porch light. The paper ripples slightly, colors blooming into themselves. What should I call it? She asks. Storm that helps things grow, I say. She considers, then writes it neatly at the bottom. We go inside, leaving the door open for the cat who pretends not to need the invitation. Behind us, the rain finds a gentler key and turns.